Welcome, everyone, to Asian Pacific Voices Radio, where you'll find stimulating conversations that explore diverse topics and stories that impact our communities. I'm your host, Sasha Fu. Today, our guest is Dante Dauz, who is a tireless advocate for youth in the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities in San Diego. He's prioritizing the needs of young people through his work in San Diego with the Union of Pan-Asian Communities, which is also abbreviated as UPAC. Well, he's juggling a lot of roles and responsibilities these days, among them several programs that are based out of the Neighborhood Enterprise Center. And that is a very special resource, a unique resource that serves as both a mentorship and a job training for youth. Dante, we want to welcome you to Asian Pacific Voices.
Sasha, I'm grateful to be here. I look forward to going into some of the details about the work that we do here at UPAC and our impact in the community. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to share what we're very proud of.
You are doing quite a bit in the community these days, but I really want to learn about you first, about your background. What is your ethnic heritage and where did you grow up?
So I'm Filipino, and I was born and raised in National City, Chula Vista, and Bonita parts of San Diego, born and raised.
And you went through school, and what happened after that? As a teenager, what were your dreams or aspirations?
Well, as a teenager, I didn't have any real aspirations at that time. I just wanted to kind of navigate through high school and maybe figure it out. I was that kid that didn't really have a lot of direction or much to kind of progress to. Interestingly, though, I needed to get a job, and at 17 years old, I don't know how I should get into this because I wanted to be a little careful about it. I was in some trouble a little bit. I mean, so I don't want to turn this into a story like I'm just some hard, troublemaker, because that's not true. But I was in a little trouble for a little bit of fighting. And then I went to go work at I need to get a job. I just was happy to get any sort of job. And I was offered a dishwashing job at 17 years old. And it was at a restaurant, nightclub over in San Diego. And I was just so thankful for the opportunity. The boss really, really liked me. Somehow I let it slip that I was in a little bit of trouble for fighting. And I don't know why I said that in the interview. I guess I felt so comfortable around him. But instead, I thought I was going to lose a job. He actually offered me a job as a bouncer. And that was a very, very interesting situation because, what I was actually, I don't want to glamorize, fighting or violence because that's actually the opposite of what I represent now. But interestingly, that provided me an opportunity. So I asked him, hey, what do I do? He said, well, you got to make sure everybody's at least 21 years old. And at the end of the night, you're probably going to have to escort some people out. And it was interesting because those other bouncers and my boss became my mentors at that time. And, I always say this about my boss, he's either the greatest caring and giving mentor anybody could ask for, or he's the dumbest business person in the world. Because that's just the liability of the risk, to have somebody monitoring your security and safety at the club, and it's in the hands of a 17-year-old or part of the team. But what he did is instill in me that, I'm just so grateful for that opportunity. Nobody else would do anything like that. And what happened is that boss and the other bouncers who are in their 20s and 30s became my mentors. They're the ones that encouraged me to go to school. They're the ones that empowered me to realize that I'm a lot more intelligent than I gave myself credit for. And that's why it makes me who I am today. I went on to Southwestern College, studied criminal justice, graduated near the top of my class, San Diego State as well, and then went on to law school. But everything that I do now, and I know we're going to get into it more about how proud I am to work here at UPAC and impact the community's kids. It really goes back to when I was 17 years old, and know that somebody out there believes in me that much to offer me a position like that is something I'll never forget and really transformed who I am today.
It sounds like just having that early somebody in your corner who said, yeah, we believe in you, we believe you have tremendous potential, gave you this kind of energy to move forward. I want to ask you, though, a little bit related to that. What is it about you personally, in your character, that you think allows you to relate better to these younger people?
So I think I have to go back to my days as a probation officer. Ironically, when I was much younger, I not that I'm anti law enforcement or anti probation, just I want to stay away from that. Especially, I was in a little bit of trouble at the time. But I would have to say that when I became a probation officer, I already knew that I want to work in the communities that need the support. And probation department is a very interesting and unique world. You come from, there's so many different types of probation officers. I was the very proactive probation officer that really wants rehabilitation was my main focal point. Even though I'm a probation officer, I do have I do have some power, arresting power. I have to enforce accountability. However, you have to do that with a balanced approach, and that's what I did. So I have to, my upbringing, like I said, with the club, that gave me the I guess realization that people really are caring. They'll help you out even when they put their own interests at risk, like the other bouncers and the owner. When I was a probation officer, I worked exclusively City Heights in Southeast San Diego. I was already familiar with the area. I mean, I grew up most of my time in National City, so I'm familiar. National City has a lot of character traits as Southeast San Diego and City Heights, so I'm not unfamiliar with it. But just working with a lot of these youth, just understanding the obstacles and challenges that they have to overcome. I mean, it's very easy for, and I'll be a little critical, even probation officers at the time, they just see the end result of this kid, whether it's truancy, drug use, gang involvement, just not caring, committing crimes. Now, I'm all for holding them accountable, but we really have to look at, well, what was the source of that? How did they become this person? It just didn't happen overnight. This is in years and years of whether it's a poor environment, bad decision making, bad peers. So I had a very comprehensive approach, and I was with a division in probation department that embraced that also. Yes, I was a probation officer, but I was also partnered with a youth counselor and an alcohol and drug counselor. Those are the two primary challenges with a lot of the youth. There's mental health issues that need to be addressed, and there's substance use issues. Addiction issues are a very real thing with our youth. So it's a bad combination. So I was fortunate to be part of a team that was well rounded, so that we could make the impacts that we do. And
It sounds like you were doing meaningful work at the county probation department. What led to your departure? Why did you decide to leave?
so I mean, I guess I'll be candid. One, I mean, I'm not going to exclusively say it was the environment of probation. I had finished law school at the time, and I went on to move to a position with the public defender's office. But the second reason is I think we just weren't vibing as far as philosophical as wise working with the kids. There were certain things that were introduced at the time that weren't necessarily a conflict with me, but it wasn't like the approaches that I embraced. So there was a natural kind of, I don't want to say, going in separate ways, but with the opportunities with the public defender's office, I would just finish law school. It was a natural progression anyway. However, the timing seemed about right because some of the new influences that were coming in were a little counter to what I represented with City Heights and Southeast. And again, I'm not turning this into a probation bashing segment, and that's kind of the nature of all law enforcement programs.
No, that's not our intent either.
Right. It evolves. It's
Sure.
almost cyclical. There'll be like a rehabilitation model, more of a punitive model, sometimes a hybrid of both. And that was about the time when it seemed right for me to go ahead and part ways.
Well, let's talk about what you're doing at UPAC. In my introduction, I mentioned that you have a lot of responsibilities, and most of them revolve around the development of programs at the, as I call it, the Neighborhood Enterprise Center. Did I get that right? Neighborhood Enterprise Center?
Correct.
A large part of that is job training, employment readiness. Tell us a little bit about that. And specifically, there's one program that involves putting young people in the kitchen.
Yeah, no, that's our bread and butter right there. And actually, I guess I was trying to be funny there, but I didn't mean to be funny. I said bread and butter and restaurant. Yeah, so I wasn't trying to say a cheesy joke there. It just sort of came out. Um, but before I talk about the Enterprise Center and the impact and the opportunities we provide youth, it all started with me coming into UPAC to oversee a program called ACE, which is Alliance for Community Empowerment. This is a gang prevention and community violence response program. Uh, I have the most dedicated team in the world. They respond to violence throughout the entire county, all the tragedies you see on TV, including the shootings, stabbings, the homicides. This is a big nightmare for many people. And if you're watching this, I apologize if this causes any form of re-traumatization. It's just very real, and I'll be blunt.
Mm.
These families didn't realize their dad was going to get killed that day. Their 19-year-old son, their 13-year-old son. Um, these are nightmares that are occurring, and families uh, respond to these differently. We have a team, most beautiful team in the world, goes out there to provide comfort and care, answers, support, linkages. And I'm very proud of this team, and it's a very unique team. Sadly, the team, they've lost their own children to community violence, so that in itself is just so. I can't talk about this team enough. What would normally destroy a person in those situations, they actually use that tragedy and that experience to help others that are trying to navigate that pain that they had. So very, very incredible team. We have grief support counselors, peer specialists, counseling, and we do what we can. So as you can see, that gets very heavy, and we work 24/7. We're at all crime scenes, hospitals, in the community and houses. So that gets very deep and heavy. So to balance that, we get to work with a lot of great youth. We work with about 150 to 200 youth per year, various mentorship programs. We work with youth that are on probation, refugee youth. And I hate to use all the labels. I'm just sort of describing the challenges that our youth
Sure.
come from. Addiction issues. Um, and we provide a place for them to thrive. And I'm not just sort of just using words. We create spaces that they feel welcome at, comforted, safe, a place where to eat. I mean, it's just really sad. Some of these kids, they have no place to get food because the families are having trouble, so they come to group for food. But really, they just come for the guidance. And we're non-judgmental. I have a team that of mentors and other youth staff that come from lived experience. A lot of our staff are former gang members, come from the neighborhoods that our youth come from. And I'm not saying that it's not absolutely necessary to have those experiences, backgrounds, but it really helps break down some of the barriers that we had that some of the youth have with trust and being able to confide in somebody. The fact that we come from similar backgrounds, it really kind of um, helps us relate to the kids much quicker. So I'll fast forward to the Enterprise Center. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, where do you find your participants or the people who want to go out in the streets at 1 o'clock in the morning because there's just been a shooting? Are they folks, you say some of them have been touched by tragedies themselves in their own families, but do you find most of the people are coming forward and saying we want to get involved, or do you have to sort of solicit their participation?
So a combination of both. Now, fortunately, we are a program that is funded by the county. It's a community violence response team, and it's comprised by people that just have the biggest hearts. They want to help, and like you mentioned, and like I said earlier, they unfortunately have lost their own children to community violence or loved ones. So, the fact that fuels them to help others is pretty remarkable. But there's community partners. It's not just us alone. There's many partners out there. It started with like an organization called Compassion Project, then it's evolved to other programs. There's CAST is a very well-known entity that support or that tends to community violence, run by Bishop Bowser and other pastors. Um, there's many community leaders out there. When we see these tragedies happen, um, it's one thing to complain or try to make things happen that addresses it, but you just got to go out there and provide this comfort and care. So it's a whole network of people, and we're very fortunate to have from a program. But the ACE program, we were all doing this work even before this program came out. So a lot of our staff, they have their own foundations and nonprofits. This is, UPAC and ACE really gave us a vehicle to come together, to really kind of maximize our power and our commitment to our community together under UPAC. So I don't know if I answered your question. It's just uh, it's people with the biggest hearts that are very genuine.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a web or network or an alliance of many different groups that have come together, and you are in some ways sharing resources, people who have a combination of lived experience, some people who are just very impassioned about wanting to help stem the violence in the community. So you have people from all walks of life who are participating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an incredible team. Um, so from the basis of NEC, we're working with all these youth, and we do everything we can, whether it's improving your decision making, valuing school, self esteem, community esteem. Obviously there's addiction issues, gang prevention. But one of the things that was lacking was employment. I mean, that is a critical piece. When I was a probation officer, if I have a youth, and I worked with about 3,000 youth in my time with probation. If I worked with a youth for more than 6 months, they're going to leave with two things. One, they're going to have a resume. And one of the things is, a lot of youth say, well, I've never had a formal job. That doesn't mean you can't complete a resume. You can complete a resume even with volunteer work or work you do at the house. The second thing is each one of these kids is going to learn how to make a meal for their family. So I think this, and now I'm touching into some of the things that maybe didn't resonate well with probation. I used to take my kids to the grocery store and we used to shop because I would teach them how to maximize, their money to get, good value food and nutritious food. And we go to the house and cook it. And that was a great experience. One, not only did it help my relationship with the youth, but I'm teaching them some obviously how to cook, but then how to budget properly. And what would happen a lot of times is the family members, unfortunately a lot of my youth did not have the strongest relationship with their guardians and parents. But when we're cooking in the kitchen, very, very frequently parents would join us, and then we're all kind of engaging in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's why food is just very a unique feature, because one, it can lead to job opportunities, but it's also a function of sustainability, for these youth. Um, but I used to do all kinds of stuff like that, and it didn't always sit well with probation during that time. Now, probation. Now I think they embrace those sorts of things. So maybe I was just ahead of my time, maybe. But I always try to do things that are outside of the box to really relate to kids. Nothing unethical, of course. I'm not there to try to break rules, but it's okay to try some new approaches when relating to these youth. And I think I did a very decent job.
Well, we've sort of been talking around it, but I want to learn a little bit more about the genesis of the culinary training program and what you're doing now with the cafe.
Right. So, like I said, nobody was hiring our youth, and they were putting genuine efforts. I mean, I've worked with many youth. I know when a kid is saying you're trying to get a job versus doing, and these kids were grinding it out, trying to get the job, and they wouldn't even get an interview. So it's very disappointing, very frustrating for these youth. So UPAC uh, said, you know what, let's just be part of the solution. Yes, we will continue to do what we can to, improve employment, but let's be part of the solution. Let's provide a place where they could get training and employment. And that's how we came to the Neighborhood Enterprise Center. So Neighborhood Enterprise Center was a combination of two programs. It's the youth that we wanted to provide culinary training and print shop training, and that was combined with another program we had called Noble Works. And I was a manager at that time, and I helped adults with serious mental illness open up their own business. So we merged those two programs to really get the momentum to open up the Enterprise Center, which is what it is today. And the Enterprise Center is a 4,500 square foot facility. We have a cafe, we have a catering company, we have a graphic design and print shop, and it's right in 52nd and University over in City Heights. And we've trained roughly about 200 to 250 youth so far. We currently employ about 40 youth, and we're looking to do more. So, I mean, I make no secrets out there. If you like what we have going on, then you're going to come in and get our food. It's a pretty simple formula. If you come in and like what we have, purchase our product. That's how we continue to hire kids. That's how we continue to pay them so they could take care of their families. The other reason we opened up the center is City Heights, and this is now I stem back to my time as a probation officer. It was always really disappointing how City Heights community in Southeast San Diego is portrayed only with negative, I guess, character
Mhm.
traits.
Mhm.
High school dropouts, gangs, drug use, property crime. I'm not going to sit here and say that doesn't happen, but
It's
that
true.
happens in every neighborhood. But that is not the what these neighborhoods are about. These neighborhoods are family oriented, very resilient, hardworking, ethical. Um, and then again, kind of like with the job thing, when nobody's giving our kids jobs, let's open up a place. Same thing with kind of the outlook with our communities. Instead of
Mhm.
complain about it, well, how can we change some of that imagery? So
Mhm.
we focus on the diversity of City Heights. It's very diverse. I would say it's the most diverse region in all of California if you look at the square mileage. I know LA has pockets of ethnic neighborhoods, but they're very isolated and just for those particular populations. San Diego, you have probably 30, 40 different ethnicities within a 2 mile square radius of one another. So on our menu, we reflect our community. We have Somali food, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Syrian, Mexican, Filipino, Lao. I'm sure I'm missing some
Wow.
more stuff. Korean, Nepali, and this is beautiful. It represents our immediate community, and this is not Food Network TV. I know people have heard me say this before. It's not culinary school. We learn directly from our community members. What better way to honor our community and the diversity through food than to honor the traditional recipes, traditional flavor profiles, and that's what we do. And it's really an honor for me and our Chef Eddie, to go into the homes or for them to come here and teach us these dishes. It's really heartwarming. I remember learning how to make traditional kippe from a Syrian mother. And Eddie and I went into her kitchen, and here she is making traditional kippe for us, and we were literally in tears. She comes from a
Oh,
tragic background. I don't necessarily want to put all of her information out there, but I think we're all familiar with the tragedy in Syria, and unfortunately, she well, she has a traumatic past, but here she is resettled in San Diego, and it's just an honor for us to be there with her. And that goes for a lot of our. We have a dish called sakuma, which is taught to us by a Ugandan nurse. We have kana from a Korean mother. I mean, there's a ton of dishes, and so that's partially why we want to really highlight the strength of diversity, and we do it through food. Even as adults, you keep hearing, "Hey, embrace culture
sure.
or diversity." Kids don't know what that is. Adults don't even know what that means sometimes, but we do it through food. I might not know your culture, but I like food,
Right.
and that tastes really good. So now I want to learn more about your culture.
Yeah. I think food is the great equalizer too. It's an
It
ambassador
is.
for introduction to other cultures. I haven't heard of many other programs like this. Have other organizations that are doing similar community work reached out to you and said, "Hey, we want to model a program after yours"? Are you kind of blazing a trail for other community oriented organizations?
Yeah, I think we're setting the not necessarily the bar, but we're one of the I guess more known ones. But we came at a time. I mean, it's not the most. It's not the newest idea. There are other organizations that have similar backgrounds. I know, like U East is one. The IRC has a program. A lot of people are familiar with Kitchens for Good, which believe their focal point is more the reentry population. So there's all kinds of different types of programs similar to ours. And it's in no way am I saying it's a competition, because it's not. There's so many people out there that need programs like the ones I just mentioned in ours. We're definitely proud to be, one of the more reputable ones that are out there. And when I say more reputable, it doesn't mean that there's irreputable ones. I just mean that we're one of the ones that people think of when it comes to this sort of social enterprise program. And I just thank UPAC and the board for taking this risk. I mean, as a nonprofit organization, you're generally risk averse when it comes to finances because you need to make sure that your finances are strong. And we're trying to open up a business, and we all know business, especially the food industry, likelihood of success is very low. But UPAC embraces that idea, like, well, our community needs this help. So even though yes, there are some risks, it's a risk that we're willing to take because of the impact that's going to have, and that's exactly what we're carrying out.
I have a question about the youth who are working either in the cafe or catering end of it, or as you mentioned, this print shop, which I'd like to learn more about. Are they actually being paid a wage for their labor?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the whole idea behind this whole program. Is we want to make sure that these youth have jobs. Our youth are and their families are suffering. So the youth, any youth that wants to try to earn and support their family, it's we're going to try to make that happen. So we do have some paid apprenticeships, but we could only sustain the growth through our revenue. So that's why I always tell people, if you like this place, then come get food over here. That's the only way we're going to continue to grow. Now we do have some internal programs because the other function of Enterprise Center is to be a valuable and culturally competent center that the community could rely on. So we do have programs. We have like CalFresh enrollment. We do PEBT. We do like some promotion for SDG&E. We have a small business program to help small business. We have our food distribution program. So all these different programs we have, in addition to just the cafe, catering, print shop, is designed to empower our community. And the beautiful thing, and the reason I started the whole story about when I got offered this job at 17 years old, um, is all of our programs I just named, it's run by youth themselves. I'm sitting at the desk of where we do our accounting, and she's just, I think she's still 17 years old, and she's in high school. She does all of our payables and receivables, and we have some very high volume invoices that we're dealing with. Our micro business program that I was telling you about, that's run by a 20-year-old successfully. Our food distribution program, which is about 8,000 pounds of food per week, when we started during COVID, that was run by a couple 19-year-olds. And, it's not like I'm just saying that there's youth and then secretly me, the old guy, is running it and pulling all the strings. No, I got other things to do. These youth are
Yes.
very much in control, taking
Uh-huh.
full lead positions with these successful programs, and they're executing it amazingly.
They're getting paid and they're getting practical experience and real work skills, real skills that they can use in the job market. So when they go out and apply for
Hmm.
a job down the line, the prospective employer may turn around and say, well, do you actually have any experience in this? And they can say, well, as a matter of fact, I do. Can
Right,
you tell
right.
us?
No, and that's what we. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Dante, do you have any success stories about some young person you worked with who started out at the Enterprise Center, maybe working in the cafe or the print shop, and they have just, soared? They have just soared.
Yeah, we have many. I'll start off first of all. Her name is Peaceful Land. She's all of our boss here. And when I say that, she really is all of our boss because we have a lot of functions here. I talked about our community violence program. I
Mhm.
talked about our mentorship program. We have handfuls of community programs. We have our vibrant cafe and print shop and catering company. Peaceful is the only one out of all of us that knows how to do every single one. Oh, and then the accounting, the admin side of, I don't know the admin side or the accounting side. Uh, uh, she does, but she's the one that exclusively knows everything. So she is one. Our goal when working with the youth, and she's a Korean youth, was to graduate them from high school. She's our first college grad, and she graduated from Point Loma Nazarene last year, and now she's in charge of pretty much the entire department with us.
Dante, it has been a pleasure learning more about what you're doing with UPAC. And if there are ways for us to follow what you are doing or what your organization is doing, how can we follow you on social media?
Before I close, can I get one more thing that I want to sneak in here, and I'll take a 30-second
Sure.
before. But I'm sorry. Another program we're very proud of, which is a continuation of the Enterprise Center, is Timmy's Place over in downtown
Uh-huh.
San Diego. So this is a remarkable. I mean, it could be a whole nother show, but I'll wrap it up in 10 seconds. It's a beautiful coming together of our UPAC NEC with Urban Street Angels, with the Rolf Benerschke Legacy Foundation, and Lucky Duck. So this is a pizzeria and a high volume print shop, and we hire exclusively homeless transition youth from Urban Street Angels. And please check us out. So you could reach us though. We have our website, upacsd.com, and our handles, our Instagram and Instagram. Not sure about the Twitter, is UPAC_SD. And then for the youth programs, UPAC_SD_youth. And Sasha, I thank you so much for your time and allowing me to kind of share what we're very proud of over here.
Well, thank you for all your hard work, your dedication, your determination, and your passion. It really is making a difference in so many lives, and we thank you for that. We'd also love to hear from you, our listeners, about any suggestions for future show topics or guests. Also, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, as well as follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. Asian Pacific Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, a nonprofit group that empowers our Asian and Pacific Islander communities with a voice through the media arts. If you would like to support our program, please visit AsianPacificVoicesRadio.com. I'm your host, Sasha Fu. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us again next week for another exciting and thought-provoking episode of Asian Pacific Voices Radio. Until then, take care, everyone.